Alright. How's it going, everybody? Alec the Cleric here. The temple doors are open, and today we're discussing a topic that I think a lot of people might find controversial. Today, I want to talk about the supposed nerfs to everybody's favorite godslayer, the liquid cooling. On April 14th, 2022, Gearbox released their second hotfix for Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. This is version 1.0.1.0. In this hotfix, they made a bunch of small changes to the game, including some ways that spells work and the way they are balanced. But the biggest thing that drew everybody's attention was the nerfocalypse to legendary pistols. This included big nerfs to the Masterwork Handbow, the Catatumbo, the Queen's Cry, the Ruby's Spite, and the Pookie's Chew Toy, as well as buffs to the Automagic.exe, the Gluttony, and the Message. But nobody actually cares about those pistols, right? No, the main issue that everybody took from this was the issue here. At the very bottom of this section, addressed an issue with how the liquid cooling damage scaling was being calculated. With this adjustment, the liquid cooling lost about 60% of its damage potential. 60%! It was at this point that a lot of members of the community decried Gearbox. How dare you nerf our favorite gun? How dare you take away the ability for us to kill bosses in a single blow? This is an outrage. However, I am here to make one simple statement that will probably get me cancelled. The liquid cooling was not nerfed. Okay, everybody can put down their pitchforks and torches now. Let me try to explain to you what I mean. It was no secret that the liquid cooling was most likely the best legendary in the game of Wonderlands. It had the capability to absolutely melt most of the bosses in the game, including the 4 hidden raid bosses. There wasn't a single enemy that could stand up to the mighty power that was the liquid cooling. But, as it turns out, this weapon that we all adored and loved so much for its outstanding power was broken. The damage scaling on the liquid cooling was not being calculated correctly, and therefore because of that, it received way more damage at higher levels and higher chaotic and volatile levels than it should have been receiving. With this patch, Gearbox addressed the problem, fixing the liquid cooling to work as it was intended. And it is with that I argue that the liquid cooling wasn't nerfed at all. It was simply fixed back to where it was supposed to be before the game was launched. I mean, look at the wording itself used in the post. Masterwork Handbow damage reduced. Catatumbo damage reduced. Queen's Cry damage reduced. This wasn't a nerf at all. It was a fix of a problem that potentially could have killed Wonderlands within its first 2 weeks of being launched. Let me try to explain to you what I mean. When you have one particular weapon that is just obviously so much more powerful than everything else and works perfectly with every build to absolutely melt any enemy that stands in your way, your game has a major problem. It would get to the point where literally nothing else would be used. Just look at what we have in Borderlands 2. The moment that you're able to, most people, I say most because of course I'm going to get 1 or 2 people in the comments that are like, I never use the dupa. You do. You do use the dupa. We all do. I digress. The moment most people are able to, they will go farm for a double penetrating Unkempt Herald. After that, they will go and farm for a fastball grenade. After that, they will simply waltz through the story until those weapons are outscaled. Then they will go back, refarm those up, and waltz through the game. It gets to the point where even at the highest levels of in-game, you will find that most people's inventory consists of a double penetrating unkempt herald. This is unhealthy, especially if you would like your game to consist of more than just one gun being used. And we can tell that Gearbox is very interested in a variety of weapons and other pieces of gear being used. Just look at what we had with Borderlands 3. Not too long into Borderlands 3's life cycle, we had a similar problem brewing with the Cutsman and the Flacker. On release, both of these weapons were god killers and extremely powerful. And both of these received actual nerfs. Gearbox reduced the damage of the Cutsman by 25%, and the Flacker was reduced by 33%. Because of this, most people tried to find other ways to kill bosses quickly beyond the Cutsman or the Flacker. And just look at the variety of weapons that people can use in Borderlands 3 now. Builds are diverse, powerful weapons abound, and you will find it very rare that people will go back to using a Cutsman and Flacker to simply tear through the game. Both of these weapons are extremely still usable in Borderlands 3. They're just not the god killers that they once were. It is my humble opinion that this is the exact same mindset behind the liquid cooling fix. And again, this was not a nerf. This was a fix. The liquid cooling was doing something it was never intended to do. Just looking at the way that Wonderlands works, both with builds and gear, this leads me to believe that Gearbox does not want just one gun to become the ultimate god killer. They want a balance to this game, and for people to be able to find multiple different paths to becoming the powerful fate maker they are intended to be. Still don't think this is the case? Well, look at the other weapons that got nerfed, actual nerfs, in this patch. Do you notice a trend with these? They are all pistols. Go back to most content creators' videos during the early days of Wonderlands, and you will find a worrying trend. Pistols and SMGs were the most commonly used weapons. Shotguns, snipers, launchers, and ARs were practically non-existent from some of the most powerful builds. If you want a balanced game, this is a major problem. So this liquid cooling change was not to take away your favorite piece of candy. This was to bring some form of balance to the game. And now, if you look at most people's inventory, you will see that there is more than just pistols and SMGs sitting there. This is what Gearbox intended with this patch, and I think they have succeeded beautifully. And it's not like they only did nerfs in this patch. The automagic.exe was increased in damage by 50%. That's massive. The gluttony increased by 15%. Again, pretty big. It's not that they don't want us to have powerful gear. It's that they don't want one piece of gear to completely take over the entire game. And make no mistake, should the liquid cooling not have been addressed, that's exactly what would have happened. But oh, rip the liquid cooling. Liquid cooling is dead forever now. Yeah, no. No, it is not. The liquid cooling can still do work. As a matter of fact, as you can see here, I'm doing some pretty good melting on these bosses using a liquid cooling. The thing about the liquid cooling now is that you have to put in a little bit more work to make it good. You have to tailor your build to it. You have to make sure that you are on a proper class that can make it as powerful as it once was. Now, the one caveat to this whole point that I'm making is that 60% is quite a reduction in damage. I believe that Gearbox could have done this fix while also giving the liquid cooling a slight buff in other areas to make it not so dramatic. So maybe a slight buff to the liquid cooling will be something that we will see in the future to adjust for the fact that fixing it did take a lot of its oomph. However, this change was necessary for the health of the game. And who knows what is coming down the road. As of this recording, we are getting our first DLC and major patch to Wonderlands on April the 21st of 2022. With that patch, we could see some slight buffs to the liquid cooling. We could see the addition of other pieces of gear that make people forget about the liquid cooling entirely. Who knows what we are going to find? The fact of the matter is, for a game to be healthy and have a long life cycle, like games in the Borderlands franchise seem to have, changes and adjustments must be made. It doesn't matter if it is a competitive game or if it's all just for fun. The moment these games start to become stale is the moment that they die. And to have the gun meta so stale in the first 2 weeks of Wonderlands would have been an absolute death sentence. This liquid cooling change needed to happen. It was not a nerf, it was a fix. But what do you all think about the liquid cooling change? Write down in the comments below what you think of the liquid cooling change, how you think the liquid cooling should be handled moving forward, and maybe just what your favorite legendary is in this game. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is an exceptional game, and I wanted to have as long and storied of a lifestyle as any of the other games in the Borderlands universe. So good on you, Gearbox, for making this change. Thank you guys for watching. If you don't mind, why don't you go ahead and leave a like on this video, hit that subscribe button, and why don't you turn the bell on so you're notified anytime I drop a new video. I'm going to have a lot of content coming out about Wonderlands, and I would love for you to come along this journey with me. Don't forget too that I do live streams of Tiny Tina's Wonderlands every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern over at twitch.tv/AlecTheCleric. And as always, be excellent to each other, and we'll see you guys next time.